everybody. I've got Kieran here with me today, and we're going to be talking about intelligent automation and just digital transformation as a whole. And we were just talking about how exciting it is that we get to have these discussions across the world. So he's joining me from the UK. I'm here in the US. So again, my little plug of, it's a big deal when we're talking about it all around the world. But before we get started, would you mind giving everybody a quick introduction?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kieran, based in the north of Ireland near Belfast. I describe myself as an automation and digital transformation expert. And for about the last 25 years, I've been driving business transformation across a range of industries, which is quite exciting, and using tools like digital technology, and we'll talk about those in a moment, and intelligent automation and data analytics and artificial intelligence and robotics to try and make those firms more efficient or more often than not try and make them millions of dollars in revenue in some shape, form or other. But you're right, brilliant space, I think, at this moment in time. Really exciting things happening despite the negativity sometimes in the news about job losses. But the fact that you and I are talking 20 years ago, that just wouldn't have happened, wouldn't have been capable. So I think we were saying just before this, Emma, that I've talked to India and the US and the UK today, and sometimes all at once. It's just an amazing time to be in, technology-wise and people-wise as well.
It really is. Yeah, thank you for joining me. So for our discussion, I think it makes sense for us to start really at the beginning and talking about that transformation journey and strategy that you're helping guide folks on. Do you have recommendations or thought processes that you'd like to share with us to kind of get the conversation rolling?
Be terrible if I said no, Emma, and then that would be you learn something all the time, and it's one of these things I sort of say you have to end up in a big hole to work out how to get yourself out of it. And anybody who comes on and meets you or anyone else on the webinars or talks or whatever and says it's been 20 years of pure success is, let me be impolite and call them a total liar, because things just go wrong all the time. So I'm not too sure if the advice that I'll be giving is based on all the mistakes I've made and hopefully dug myself out of, or all the things that have gone really well. But I don't think there's no one template you can apply to every organization. So if you're talking about generalisms, then it literally is okay. Automation, digitization, that isn't a strategy. There's an organizational strategy, and I think people sometimes get confused and focus on automation or digital tooling, whereas the first thing you need to do is say, look, where's the organization going? Where do they add value? Where are customers willing to buy, or what are they willing to buy? And then in this day and age, you will know that most of it's going to be digital in some shape, form or other. COVID, that horrible word, has driven more people online than ever. So I think anybody has to go, right, number one is, where's the organization going? What's their plan? What's the organizational strategy? And then how do I wrap around intelligent automation or digital tooling to try and help the business add that value to allow them, whatever they're producing or manufacturing or distributing, to make money? So number one is wrap your program around the firm's mission and goals. Have a plan, and then have a plan that a chief financial officer will actually sign off on. Because I've seen too many people getting excited by the technology over the years and forgetting that actually, why are we doing this? How is it supporting the business? And is it actually going to make us any money? And then lots of programs fail when people go, your CFO comes along and she says, well, how much this has cost X, and how much money have you actually brought in? And you look and you talk about, well, our staff are happier and our customers are happier, and all sorts of nice soft metrics that are important, but sometimes are the exhaust fumes of an actual financial return, which is what companies need more than ever. Those are probably the big things. The other thing is, I would say, there has to be a mindset that's welcoming to automation. If you're going in somewhere that's very siloed, that people aren't excited by this, that they don't want it, they feel threatened by it, then immediately your plan and your method and your delivery is in trouble, and you'll never make money out of it. An organization has to be ready for it. And when you're doing transformation or digitization or intelligent automation, it really has to be end-to-end. You have to reimagine how you're actually working as a business. And if you think about it, lots of businesses, if you were starting them up today, you wouldn't open them up the way they were. Banks are probably an example of that. When you look at companies like Uber, who've reinvented eBay, Amazon, Starling Bank in the UK, they've all literally went, forget kind of what we're doing, right? Let's go again. Let's start up digital, and away we will go. And that's not to knock organizations grabbing as much money as they can out of their existing methods or as they move toward digital or whatever. But literally, rethink how you're going about these things, I think would be one of the advices that I would give, because you can do things entirely differently and you shouldn't be held back by current thinking. So those are some very general large thoughts. So work out where you're going, align it with the business plan, make sure it does make money, rethink how you're going to deliver as a business, and just try stuff. And that there's the old phrase, think big but start small and move fast, or break things fast. And those I would recommend as well. All those and tons more.
It's interesting that you bring up this idea of like thinking differently. And one of the things that I've read recently about intelligent automation is it gives you the ability to look holistically at your process and address the whole process, and thinking, just like you said, about how to manage things differently than we've ever done before. So in that avenue of intelligent automation, I guess I've got a two-part question for you before we go far down the path of intelligent automation. Let's talk a little bit about what that looks like and what we mean when we're talking about that term. And then also, how do you start to show that value? So if we're starting small, how do we show the value or that ROI on those intelligent automation efforts?
Yeah, so I think if we look at, I think you're absolutely right. If organizations just look at automating tasks, small parts of something, then it's one of the classic reasons why automation programs fail. They just cannot generate value out of that. Now, if there's thousands and thousands of people doing a particular task and you can automate, 90% of it, maybe you'll make money out of it. But in general, it's making, for want of a better phrase, horrible processes a little bit faster, but not actually getting a return out of it. Nonsensical. Never get money. That said, when you're looking to build an automation program or a digital program, we know what this is, but very often the organization doesn't. And therefore, how do you get people excited by something they don't understand? Maybe they've seen in the press that it's going to cause job losses. Never has. You look back over the decades of things been introduced, and there's been more jobs created, more interesting and new jobs created than anything. And they've released capital and cash to allow businesses and countries to do more and more. But you have to get people excited at the start. And if you try and boil the ocean day one, your program will probably fail, because you have to build automation muscle. And the only reason you build automation muscle is by actually working out. And when I say working out, it's automating or digitizing or intelligently automating a small task or a small process to allow you to see, look, how does the technology work? How do we go about engaging people? How do we sell the program to people? How do we build the business case? And a proof of concept or a proof of value in a narrow area helps keep things controlled. But again, remember, it has to be interesting enough and meaty enough to test the technology and to get people involved. But that's your starter. Show people what it can do, get something automated. And then key to that is learn your lessons, do your retrospectives or your reflections, take those lessons, show some success, and choose a process or an end-to-end process that's actually going to add value. And that's something that's difficult in the organization or frustrating or a win, and then communicate the life out of that. So if I ever do any of these pilots or proofs of concepts, Emma, I'm videotaping it and I'm showing people the process and the method, and then the person or the team that's benefiting, I get them to talk about it. And then we talk about the value that's been delivered in the program for them. And that's the financial and the people and the customer and the risk and the compliance benefit, all those things that you can get out of an automation program of some shape, size or other. But do remember, don't just focus on the pilot. Have the next process and the next process coming through, and all those good behaviors about finding things that will add value, i.e. processes that will endure and should stay, and delivering the value and communicating the value and building this muscle and this goodwill and this PR around it. All that needs to be maintained from day one to day 361 or whatever it is that you're actually doing.
And I think that idea of prioritization, anybody who watches these videos knows that comes up with almost every person that I'm talking to when I'm doing these interviews. But also, I think one piece that's really interesting is and I don't know if you've ever heard the term FOMO, or fear of missing out. But I think if you can do a really effective job with that first proof of concept, other people in the organization are going to see these cool, exciting new things, and just by human nature are going to have that fear of missing out or their job improving or being able to leverage this technology. And they're going to help you start to come up with these other areas of expansion of how you can continue to use these platforms and these technologies to drive your business forward. So to your point, if you do a really great job with that POC, you're going to have momentum and people are going to be coming forward with probably more projects than you can handle without some strong prioritization. Um, you
I think that's the holy grail, isn't it? That you're not pushing something, it's actually been pulled. And therefore it goes back to your question, well, choose a process you can deliver as well.
Yeah, that's true. And over time, you mentioned this idea of communicating the ROI. And back to the very first question, you talked about, when your CFO comes to you and says, you've spent X, where's the return? What are some strategies that you've seen of communicating that ROI or identifying that to share with the rest of the organization?
The CFO is key, or that finance partner that you wrap around your project. So it goes back to that same thing you mentioned a moment ago. If you select the right processes at the beginning, and ideally end-to-end processes, so you're not digitizing, like just because you add Zoom into your business doesn't make you a digital company. It's a bit like my granny in the 40s. She got electric in her house. It didn't make her an electric distribution company, So putting Zoom on top of something doesn't make you digital. That's digitizing. But to look at things end to end, you work with your finance partner. And sometimes at the beginning can be a bit of what I would say is you do two methods. One, look at all the processes across the entire organization and then make judgment calls on the basis of usual best practice or vendor advice or your own observations or consultancy experience to say, stop all these processes. They haven't been looked at for years. Immediate saving, tie that into the program and tell people, look, we've just saved $1,000 and we haven't done anything. People will probably be grateful to that, for you for that, because you've just removed mundane, monotonous stuff that just they wondered why they always did it. The only problem is they might now be upset they've done it for the last 10 years. But you could look at all the processes in an organization and work out percentage-wise, how much of that can I automate? And off the back of that, you can go, how long does it take to do? How many people are involved? And if you were able to automate, digitize that process end to end, what would the saving look like? And then you can start to build numbers. Your POC, your POV can then start to validate some of the work that you're actually doing. And then you can see what I put in place. Was I overly optimistic? Was I conservative? Will that scale across the organization? You might want to do a couple of POCs in a couple of different areas where you're placing your bets. All that helps you build a business case that gets you that initial investment. And then you deliver the work, you show the business, and that's through all sorts of things, newsletters, communications, videos, your CFO, your senior executive team, communicating how important the program is, them talking about the value that's been delivered, the people in the organization you mentioned a moment ago, the FOMO piece. You get people excited about all the benefits, the cash, the people saving, the customer, excitement around all the things that you're actually doing and improving. All those things will build a momentum to get us to that holy grail process where people are chucking processes at you all the time and you're delivering more and more and more value. And then you're back into your PR and your communications program. That is the same stuff all the time. People deliver programs and then forget to explain all the good stuff they're delivering because, we're just doing it. And we've told you that. Unless, automation or digitization is one of your top 5 key agenda items, that's on everybody, particularly an executive sponsor, and then on the business, PR and comms and executive and board and leadership and management agenda, you're in trouble. But it's not enough to be on that. You need to deliver the results. And as you will know, Em, over the years, it's not just enough to deliver results. You actually have to tell people what you've done as well. Otherwise, they just don't know.
Yeah, I like that you're calling it a PR campaign. I had another guest talk about it as like an internal and external marketing campaign. So, however you want to think about it, that piece of communication is incredibly critical. And just to get people to understand the why at the very basis, but then also to talk about those wins that maybe, they're not realizing X, Y, and Z was taken out of the process if someone else was responsible for that. And so being able to communicate that in that, that PR or communication or marketing campaign is huge for demonstrating that ROI.
100%, 100%. Every time I go in, I build a stakeholder map. And if folks go into Google, type that in, you build out all the people who should be influenced, need to be informed, need to be educated, whatever else. I would recommend that no matter what folks are doing, even if it's not intelligent automation, if you're delivering a program that delivers value, work out who you need to communicate with and the variety of messages that you need to produce to let people know you've delivered what you've actually, for want of a better phrase, delivered.
Well, I really appreciate you joining me for the conversation today. I enjoyed our time together. Anybody that's interested in learning a little bit more, feel free to pop over to Kieran's LinkedIn, message him any questions that you might have. Again, we met on that platform, so I'm sure he'd be more than happy to connect. But otherwise, everybody have a wonderful day, and thank you again.